Looking at the technological advances, I used to be on dial-up looking for...
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. So today, we're going to talk about Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss. I guess you can call it the haunting of Shayna Baszler that took place on Monday Night Raw, June the 7th, 2021. And how did a badass cage fighter like Shayna Baszler end up in this situation where she is afraid of a doll? I don't know. Let's go through the segment. We have Shayna Baszler. She's marching with purpose to the ring to confront Alexa Bliss because she was invited to be on Alexa's playground or whatever. She gets stopped by Nia Jax, who's like, look, I know Alexa Bliss and I've never seen her this dangerous before. She's up to no good. You're walking into a trap. And Shayna Baszler is super cocky. She's like, I don't care about this trap. You know, Alexa Bliss is a 5-foot Barbie. I'm going to rip her in half. And like, what am I supposed to be worried about? And it's just a stupid doll. So she goes out there. And Alexa Bliss is like, oh, yeah, Lily, well, she wants to be your friend. She wants you to be one of our friends. But you have to apologize for calling her a stupid doll. It was mean. You should apologize. And Shayna was like, absolutely not. Why should I do that? That's stupid. The doll is stupid. This is stupid. So... of course, she refuses to apologize to the doll. She decides to feign an apology. So she takes the doll and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry that that you're just a stupid doll," and then she throws the doll on the ground. And Alexa Bliss, like a cannon, attacks the cage fighter and actually manages to take her down and throw a flurry of punches, most of which Shayna Baszler was able to block. And then she rolled her out of the ring. And then completely no-so that Alexa Bliss was attacking her. And then we get Shayna Baszler stomping the doll. She put her foot on the doll, and Alexa Bliss was like, don't do that. And Shayna Baszler was like, okay, I'm going to stomp it. And Alexa Bliss was like, don't do that. And then she stomped the doll. And of course, during the dramatic tension, we had some camera guy who had to get down on the ground and film Shayna Baszler from... and then another one had to be above her to film it. Because we got to have kooky camera angles. I have no idea why we had to see an above and below shot of Shayna Baszler's foot being on the doll. In any event, once she stomps the doll, the world starts to change. Everything starts getting all topsy-turvy. Weird music is playing and the lights is flickering. And Shayna bails from the ring. She gets the hell out of the ring. As she's leaving, all the magic stuff starts to happen. Poof, 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 fire is all over the place. And Shayna Baszler like, oh no, I gotta get out of here. So she flees to the back. And once she's in the back, then all the real weirdness begins. Because now the doll's trying to kill her. There's things falling from the sky. A box. Doop, doop, doop. And she's like, what is going on? And she turns around and here comes that thing that tried to kill Roman Reigns 2 years ago. The pillar, like, she's like, oh no, it's just a stupid doll. And she's running. Well, it's not quite running. She's briskly walking through the backstage area, trying the doors, and the doors are locked. And she's like, oh my God, what's going on? And the lights are flickering. And she finally finds herself in a room. And she barricades the door to the room with very light sofas. And nobody in the room, is just her and a mirror. And she's like, okay. Whew. She thinks she's safe. Classic in horror movies. She thinks she's safe. She thinks she's got away. And then she looks in the mirror, and there's the doll. There's Lily staring at her. And she's like, no, no, no. And she turns around, and she thinks Lily is behind her, and Lily's not there. And she's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And then she looks in the mirror, and there's Lily again, staring at her. And she's like, no. And she kicks the mirror, shatters the mirror. 7 years bad luck for Shayna Baszler. It's already been a couple of years of bad luck. And then all of a sudden, what happens? She turns, the mirror is shattered, and Lily is still there, her eyes piercing into Shayna Baszler, who is, no, ah! And we go off the air. We go off the air with Shayna Baszler screaming. And this was, again, very divisive. Some people believe it's the worst ending to Raw ever. Look, I think sometimes people speak in hyperbole about these kind of things. I'm not ever going to say something is the worst ever. It's just too many. I can't remember the end of most Raws to tell you it's the worst Raw ever. It's the end. It's the worst end of Raw ever. It was certainly a something that they like to do with Alexa Bliss is ending things with cliffhangers and what happened next, and that's a perfectly respectable way to end the show. But the question now is, should we have been doing this? Well, my question is, why? How did we get here? Why did Alexa Bliss start picking on Shayna Baszler from the first place? It's not like they had anything in common or had crossed paths in any way or anything like that. It just seemed silly to me that out of all the people she could bully on the roster, she picked a badass cage fighter who could rip her in half physically. It just seems to make no sense. But then again, that's WWE in common day. A lot of stuff they do makes no sense. So the question of how do we even get here is a question that I have, because I've seen every episode of Raw up to this point, and I couldn't tell you when they've interacted up until the part where she says that the division needs to be worried about her, and then she immediately starts screwing around with Shayna Baszler, and it just seems to make no sense that Shayna Baszler would be the target of all of this. In any event, Shayna Baszler is in character by not being worried or not being scared and not being superstitious and believing in silly stuff like magic dolls. That's within the character of Shayna Baszler. She's pretty realistic, and why would she believe in magic dolls and all this other nonsense? I mean, sure, Alexa Bliss has been teleporting and shooting fire for the last several months. It's not natural she would all of a sudden say, you know what, her shooting fire, her disappearing and reappearing, all the stuff she did with Bray Wyatt, that was all bunk. I don't believe none of that. So I'm all of a sudden going to be like, look, this doll is stupid. This playground is stupid. Everything's dumb. Not going to work. Shayna Baszler is a character that would try to call the bluff of an Alexa Bliss. And I can respect that. Even though I don't believe that she should be in this position, I can respect it. I don't think every character should be put in every situation. When Bret Hart had to wrestle Papa Shango, they didn't do the curse. When Kurt Angle had to do stuff with Undertaker, they kind of kept in the later years, they kind of started doing some of the magic stuff. But they kept it to a minimum. When you have credible wrestlers, you don't need to do so much magic. And Shayna Baszler is one of those types. She should be in a position where she should be able to avoid all this stuff. Or if they had to do it, it would be a situation where Alexa Bliss wants to win the title or something like that, and Shayna Baszler has it, and she's been crushing people because she's a legitimate cage fighter, and she can snap anybody's leg she wants. And the only advantage Alexa Bliss has is the fact that she can do magic. And I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about people doing magic on a wrestling show. But then again, hey, it's been 30 years of this shit. In any event, we've got this situation. And, of course, I didn't like it. Well, I liked the Shayna Baszler being, fish out of water. I think that part was good. She is being the person who sort of represents all of the quote-unquote real wrestling fans who are in this position where they think this is stupid. And then she gets launched into this reality where this doll was in control and is trying to kill her. And what else is she supposed to do except get scared? She can't run away from it. The doors are locked. It's controlling the Thunderdome and all this kind of stuff. It's natural. It's a very horror movie way for you to actually turn into this story. But I just don't like it. I just don't like the idea that we're even going this route with Shayna Baszler. And I'm not sure where we're going with this or why. Was it an interesting thing to see? It's always interesting to see people almost die when you have various things falling from the sky and, things tipping over and, unsafe working conditions and all those sorts of things. All that stuff is going to be somewhat interesting. Even though it was really, really bad when they did it with Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton. It was really bad. This wasn't as bad as that, but it wasn't far off. Shayna Baszler kicking the mirror only to see Lily is still there is, classic horror movie stuff. And somebody is really a big fan of horror movies. And it's got to be Bray Wyatt. He's got to be the one putting this stuff together. and he's got to be having a fucking ball, sitting back there, like, man, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be great, man, and coming up with this crazy stuff. And there's an audience for it. There's some people who really like it, and they think it's interesting. And I will say this: I am one of these people who complains about the rematches on Raw and that they're doing the same thing every week. This is not the same thing they've been doing. You know, even though they've stopped to do these magic segments every once in a while, with Alexa Bliss disappearing and reappearing, and with her trying to murder somebody for having things fall from the sky or shooting fireballs or whatever. It's something different with somebody different. She's not just feuding with Randy Orton anymore. She's not even feuding with Bray Wyatt anymore. Now she's picked Shayna Baszler as a target, or can we say that Shayna Baszler has been, has took up the challenge, however you want to put it. And for that, it is at least unique. But for me, I'm just kind of like, I don't need this magic stuff. I really don't need it. I would prefer, everybody to be doing something a little bit more realistic. But we can't have that in wrestling today. And, some people are on the wrestling should be fun. And some people find this to be fun. So I don't know. Like, I don't strongly hate it as much as I strongly hated some other segments, mainly because I did kind of identify with Shayna Baszler in this situation due to her disbelief in the doll's power and I bought into Shayna Baszler's, her, that this is ridiculous, like I bought into that. She's very believable in making us think that she believes these things to be ridiculous. And because they are. And so it has to be pretty easy for her to just be like, it's a stupid doll. Like I said last week, it was perfectly fine for her to just be, to tough guy Alexa Bliss. And then just say the doll is dumb. But whenever they have her actually address the doll, you don't need to ever address the doll. If you don't believe the doll is real, you don't address it. You address Alexa Bliss. And, so for that, to me, it was weird. The camera angle, when she came to just stomping the doll, I mean, come on. She could have ripped the doll's head off, which I think would have been so much better. Especially if they'd gimmicked the doll where they would, like, explode it or something. Like, imagine if Shayna Baszler ripped the doll open and, like, black ooze or something like that was in it. Like, all the black stuff that was flowing down of Alexa Bliss's head at WrestleMania. Imagine if that was the stuff that was within Lily. Like, Shayna Baszler said, I'm sorry, you're just a stupid doll. And then, Alexa Bliss attacked her and the doll falls down. And then when she gets it, Shayna Baszler is going to twist the head off the doll. And then she just rips the head off, and like black ink starts flying out of it. Like, it would have been so much, cooler that she would have been like, it's just a stupid doll, and just ripped it in half. And then all this weird stuff starts to happen. I still would have said, it's a little silly, but at least it would have been visually cool because we saw Alexa Bliss's token, her totem or whatever, getting destroyed. And there is a lot to be said about, destroying charms and things like that in the magic world. When you have things like voodoo dolls, and let's say that that's the route that Alexa Bliss is going here, then we have to say, okay, well, does she have like a lock of Shayna Baszler's hair? Does she have like, some saliva, some blood? How is she that she can, haunt and do harm to Shayna Baszler from a distance? It's still bullshit, but it's more believable if you have, if you go into the realm of that and you start doing like real wicked voodoo shit, then it'll be like, some people may be like, oh, you don't play with that. And I've seen people do that a lot, don't play with the magic. Don't play with that Satanism. Don't do that. It's too demonic. And, so I'm on that tip where we need to go full ridiculous if we're going to do it. And I think that they cut corners on it. Not ripping the doll was a big mistake for me. The camera angles of the above and the below camera angle seemed silly to me. It seemed unnecessary. But I guess it had to be some way for us to transition from regular show to cinematic show, even though it should have just transformed like when Shayna Baszler went to the back. So I don't think it's the worst ending to Raw ever. It's just stupid magic shit. You know, and it's gonna be stupid magic shit until we get the fuck out of this Thunderdome. Can't get out of the Thunderdome fast enough. So while I do have some intrigue about what happened, I don't think Shayna Baszler is dead. I don't think she's been eaten or violated in any way. I think she was just scared. And now that, you know, she's been haunted, she learns, you know, a healthy respect for Lily. Or if they're going to go full ridiculous, have Shayna Baszler come up on Raw next week and she's completely scared. And, you know, she's rocking like Mankind back and forth like it's just a stupid doll. It's just a stupid doll. It's just a stupid doll. Like, that would be funny. You know, if we came back to the Thunderdome and Shayna Baszler is still locked in that room, rocking back and forth saying it's just a stupid doll. It's just a stupid doll, and like there's writing on the wall, like it's just a stupid doll. Then I would be like, okay, cool. We've gone full ridiculous with it, and, you know, it's going to be fun. But something tells me that Shayna Baszler is going to show up next week almost completely unfazed, and everybody's supposed to be like, oh, well, we don't, what happened? I don't know, you know, and because nobody sells anything for longer than a week in this company anyway. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, donate if you can, and I'll talk to you guys later.
I can only be great.